Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and I've got a couple stories for you, Ripple and XRP related, in this latest Moon Lambo hot jam. And I'll start with one indicating that 193 million XRP has been on the move. Massive quantities, especially, I'll tell you what, over the last few days in particular, there's been some major flows moving around. To some degree, that's not necessarily surprising given that there's an increase in, well, both volume, liquidity, and, well, let's say three metrics: volume, liquidity, and price for XRP. It's been quite the roller coaster ride. But I also want to talk about this story. Is Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse spreading fear, uncertainty, and doubt about Bitcoin and the banning of Bitcoin? Is he spreading FUD? Not so fast. Here's a headline from you today. Ripple CEO claims he's not advocating for banning Bitcoin. And here's one on the same topic from Crypto Newsflash. Ripple CEO rejects FUD accusation over Bitcoin's energy consumption. And so I want to share this with you because Brad Garlinghouse is doing nothing more than stating facts, setting the record straight. And the problem is that Bitcoin maxi trolls out there, they don't really like the facts, and they like to misrepresent the facts to make Bitcoin sound more awesomer than it actually is. Bitcoin, most awesomest cryptocurrency that ever would be. Cottage cheese. No, Ripple. That's exactly what they sound like. You can always tell when there's a Bitcoin maxi troll around because it will start to immediately smell like sadness and a blend of room temperature cottage cheese. Disgusting. Now, I do want to be clear before I go further that I don't have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who makes YouTube videos as a hobby about Ripple and XRP, cryptocurrency, and really, I'll tell you this. The primary reason that I make these videos is so that I can make Bitcoin maxi troll sounds. Bitcoin, Ripple scam. There you go. So that's it. That's the real reason. Now you know. It's finally out. After running this channel for almost 2.5 years, that's the real reason. Whew, I feel good to get that off my chest. So here's the headline from you today. 193 million XRP moved between Binance and top-tier crypto custodian. Whale Alert has reported that over the last 13 hours, a staggering amount of $125 million worth of XRP has moved between two large crypto platforms. And who are we talking about here? Binance and BitGo. And it has been interesting. It's not just this transaction. I've been sharing on the channel. There's been a ton of transactions specifically to Binance and from Ripple. And I'm not talking about Binance US, where trading of XRP has been halted. So I don't know what are they just selling so much XRP and it's going into cold storage that is it Binance, the exchange, that needs more for their reserves so that they can sell at market rate for people that aren't buying from one another specifically? So it kind of makes you wonder, but that is a massive quantity of XRP, and it's coming in at a time where you're seeing the most exciting XRP price action that we've ever seen in over 3 years. So it's fascinating stuff here. So what about Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse, though? What is this silly guy doing here? From Crypto Newsflash. In a recent interview with CNN's Julia Chatterley, Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse criticized Bitcoin, claiming that one transaction is equivalent to about 75 gallons of gasoline being burned, while pointing to its supposed negative environmental impact. Moreover, in the same breath, he stated that the XRP ledger is 100,000 times more energy efficient. Look, facts are facts, guys. Whether they're convenient or inconvenient, they're still just facts. And you can pretend like this proof of work mining is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that it's necessary and it makes sense, and it's not bad that it's consuming all this energy. But those arguments don't make sense to me because you could have technology that has all these other attributes that we would agree are desirable, but doesn't consume all of that energy and is not wasteful. Those are just facts, and it's just like, why you guys got to be intellectually dishonest? Can't we just agree on facts if they're facts? Apparently, the answer is no. Anyway, while Garlinghouse clarified that he was a fan of Bitcoin, he said that he only saw it as a store of value, not a means of payment. Nevertheless, or perhaps because of it, the Bitcoin community did not react very kindly to the comment. Well, go figure. Stop the press. we gotta add this information. I can't believe it. In particular, the community questioned how Garlinghouse came up with the figure of 75 gallons of gasoline. One of them was crypto journalist Frank Chaparro, who tweeted, "Seriously, very curious how many gallons of oil each Bitcoin transaction requires. Do any of you know?" And Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse saw that, and Brad Garlinghouse wrote the following on Twitter in response. "Guess I touched a nerve." Oh yeah, absolutely, you touched a nerve. God, these Bitcoin max, like this is part of their identity. This is their life. Like if you say anything negative about Bitcoin, even if it's factually the case, you are suddenly the enemy. It's tribalism, it's ideology, all of these things. Anyway, Brad says, "My comment was about how many gallons of gas emit the same amount of CO2 as a Bitcoin transaction could have been more clear in the clip. First off, I'm definitely not saying banned Bitcoin. Not saying banned Bitcoin, guys. I'm saying we collectively can and should understand proof of work's carbon footprint." And then the piece continued. As Ripple CEO explained, it is based on the Cambridge Bitcoin Index's average, and specifically March's data. According to the data, Bitcoin consumed 132.07 terawatt hours annualized in March. And by the way, after this, I am going to get directly into how the Bitcoin maxis are misrepresenting actual data, how they're manipulating it to sound positive when it's not nearly as positive as it sounds. But I got to go through this first. But Garlinghouse divided this value by 365 days and got 0.362 terawatt hours, the daily average. Multiplying by the average number of transactions per day in March, which is 301,359 transactions, gives 0.00001201 terawatt hours for the average energy per transaction. Further, based on Digiconomist's data, Garlinghouse assumed that 0.49 megatons of CO2 are produced per terawatt hour. This in turn means that 0.000000588 metric tons of CO2 is generated per transaction. I know this doesn't translate well when it's a bunch of numbers and you're hearing numbers. Most people, it's not going to translate well, but I don't really have a better way to cover it. So let me just proceed. I just want to acknowledge that. Anyway, since the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency states that, I'll just round this, 112 million gallons of gas produce equal to 1 metric ton of CO2, therefore 70 gallons of gas is emitted from 0.000000588 metric tons of CO2. So in response to the accusation of spreading FUD about Bitcoin, Garlinghouse said the following. We have the tools to make crypto 100% renewable and reach its full potential. Let's focus on the solutions to change the opinion of Janet Yellen, Bill Gates, and countless others who have pointed out concerns about energy usage instead of accusing me of FUD, which I think is a perfectly fair point. Let's acknowledge this and try and solve the problem. Why? How is that not reasonable? Of course it's reasonable, unless you have your own selfish interests and you have an ideological bend and you don't want a bad narrative out, even if it's true, having to do with Bitcoin. And Crypto Newsflash, though, they kind of injected this author here, Jake Simmons, they kind of injected his own little take on this, and he's kind of missing the mark here, I think. But here's what he wrote. As we all know, massive energy consumption is an issue that critics always cite against Bitcoin. However, claims are mostly untrue, as Bitcoin mining does consume a lot of energy, but much of it is renewable. A recent study by CoinShares found that at least 78% of Bitcoin miners use renewable energy. The same study also states that about 35 to 40% of the total energy used for mining comes from renewable resources. While this is not the 100% demanded by Garlinghouse, he didn't demand it though, he just said that would be good. Right? Whatever. It is a great number that many large industries can only dream of. In addition, CoinShares' Tatiana Revoredo stated in the report, quote, "Many renewable energy generators are poorly located and underutilized, and thus Bitcoin mining has become the only viable way for this electricity." And so there's a number of arguments that are made to support this. Some people cite the energy waste within the legacy financial system, which is tremendous. But think about this. they don't have a better way to do it. Like, they don't have a tremendous way to reduce the energy taken within the legacy financial system. With blockchain, we firmly know that we do. The technology exists. Like, XRP Ledger is using it. So, fine, make the comparison if you want. It doesn't mean that you can't do better within crypto, so I still think it's a stupid argument to make. And also, what you usually see is this argument that 78% cited that Bitcoin miners use, 78% of Bitcoin miners use renewable energy. That's how they cite it. And so you hear that, and this is intentional, by the way, from Bitcoin maxis. They want it to sound like 78% of the energy that Bitcoin miners use is from renewable energy, which sounds absurdly high. Because renewable energy, generally speaking, it's just today. Nothing against renewable energy. I'm just saying it like today, it's not nearly as economical as some other forms, which is outside the scope of this conversation, other than just mentioning it. So they want to make you think that 78% of all the energy that mines Bitcoin comes from renewable, and it's not true. So at least they acknowledge that in this piece, but that's not the way it's normally presented. It's only 35 to 40%. And still even that, I want to see that proven, because that came from one study, and I haven't seen a response to that. I haven't seen anybody actually dig into it. I'm not going to do it. I wouldn't even know where to begin, and I don't have the time. Like, somebody that's in their career of like fact-checking stuff like this, if you could jump in and do it, that would be great. But even so, let's say it's 35 or 40%. Well, still, what about that 75-gallon mark right there? So that means with every transaction, even if you take away the part that's renewable, and we let's say we agreed that that's not bad, then that's fine, even if. Well, what about the rest of it? That's still like over 40 gallons per transaction, the equivalent of oil. Like, it's still a piss poor argument, frankly. It really is. And so this is the type of stuff that Bitcoin maxis put out there. I'd rather just acknowledge whatever reality is and just be like, yeah, here it is. Can't you just be real and be like, yeah, this is a negative, but look at all these other good points. Does it have to be that everything is perfectly hunky-dory and everything's fine when it's not? See, I have a problem with it because I don't like engaging with people that aren't intellectually honest. That's the problem. And here, it's so clear that the facts are the facts. And so that's the reason that I have beef with this here. So I'm glad Brad Garlinghouse is saying what he's saying. And mind you, he's long Bitcoin. He owns Bitcoin. So, and I'm the same way. I'm long Bitcoin, but I'm going to talk about the shortcomings of Bitcoin and XRP, and that's how it is. I get crap on this channel from fringe members of the XRP community that don't want me to say negative stuff about Ripple and XRP, but when I think there's something negative to be said or bad-sounding news, I'm going to cover it. And I think, I know the vast majority of you like that and appreciate it, and I'm thankful for that because that's the right, that's rational, intellectually honest approach to take on this. But even within the XRP community, it's so large that you're going to get all God's creatures, if you know what I mean. And so there's a small percentage in the community that don't want that. And it just seems to me that you're getting that, like, here's an example of it within the Bitcoin community. And there are a lot of Bitcoin maxi trolls out there that just won't have it. So I'm just going to call it out for what it is, call it as I see it. But I do love diversity of thoughts. You can tell me if you think I'm right, I'm wrong, if I'm missing anything, and the right place to do that would be in the comment section below. But I'll wrap up here for now. I'm not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.